discuss how to move forward in an ethical way in the AI space.
Tilly Norwood, 100% AI generated by some company called Particle 6. She'll do anything I say. I'm already in love.
So it's really important for the creative industry to actually, accept this new technology, because otherwise it will be imposed by the tech industry, and it's here to stay.
Welcome, everybody, to an episode of State of the Industry. We're going to be starting a new discussion series talking about current events impacting the industry. And today we've got a packed house, a nice crew to give their insights on today's topic. I'm just going to go down the list. We have Alex Madsen with us.
Hello, sir.
We got Eric Johnson.
Hey.
We got Lucas.
How's it going?
We have Mr. Sun Lu.
Hello, good, sir.
And, breaking the internet, we got a special guest with us. We got Kyle Harden with us.
Howdy, howdy. About time.
Long overdue for sure.
Appreciate it.
Yes. So for today's topic, making the headlines has all of Hollywood abuzz. There's been talk about this quote unquote AI actress. So we brought on the experts, industry professionals, to give their thoughts on what the hell is this? What are we talking about? Is all of Hollywood going to go out of business? Maybe we're jumping the shark with that statement, but we're going to talk about this AI actress that's been making headlines and been reported to be the hot ticket in Tinseltown, as they say. Yeah, who wants to kick this off? Give us a brief breakdown as to, okay, what is this exactly?
I guess I'll take the quick explanation of what's going on with it. Pretty much there's a AI, I want to say visual asset that's been created and is being marketed. Character's name is Tilly Norwood and is being pushed by an AI service company called Particle 6. Basically, they created a short film and released it in 4K, which shows all of the beautiful inconsistencies that we actually see with things on AI right now. AI imagery is, good enough to be seen at arm's length from a phone and look okay. But if you're actually looking at it with high detail on 4K, then you see all of the inconsistencies frame to frame. The company for Particle 6, their CEO is very much trying to represent the character as somebody would an actual actor or actress.
Yeah.
When they first started to tease the character, they started making it apparent that they had been shopping around at various big studios. This is all from them directly. That they had been in meetings with studios and that studios were talking about signing on their AI actress. There isn't a single studio that's actually been willing to corroborate ever even talking to these people. It's kind of the D&D satanic panic thing all over again.
Oh man, that's a good metaphor. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the people who are creating the hype that are being seen as the experts on the hype. So the very first article that I kind of dove in with this topic on was actually a really good one on Esquire. The article is by Anthony Bernesian, and he experienced something similar to this over a decade, actually over 20 years ago now, when Square, before they were Square Enix, dropped the Final Fantasy Spirits Within movie. There was a huge hype that was around the lead character for that, Aki, so much so that they actually worked with Maximum Magazine at the time to get her in a swimsuit and did the same thing for the lead male character, got him in a swimsuit in a firefighter pose. They were trying to sell up how realistic the CG character could be at the time. And it's almost beat for beat what this reporter has recounted from when he went to Sony went to Square to actually talk about the development of the characters, and he got to see the flat texture maps, and it disturbed the crap out of him because most users don't realize, skinning a character kind of looks a lot like a pelt, and it disturbed him quite a bit. But he does a really good article breakdown of his experience with Final Fantasy Spirits Within, and then going through the instances that have been pushed for this new, quote, actress of Tilly, and he's just seeing the same kind of repeating thing that happened with Final Fantasy as with Tilly. He thinks the career is going to go absolutely nowhere, that it's a marketing ploy, basically. And that's even shown further by the CEO for the company that created Tilly has now gone so far, since they couldn't actually get a Hollywood talent agent or anyone to actually represent their character, they created a subdivision of their company to represent AI characters, to actually market AI characters the way that a talent agent would represent and market a human actor. So it's hype train on top of hype train.
So, Alex, I have a question on that. So, obviously, when you hire an actor or whatever, you're hiring a person. So, in this case, like if companies wanted to hire the AI Tilly, are they just hiring the person who creates Tilly? Like, is it just that simple, or are there other like weird human rights concerns? Like, I have no idea. I'm just sort of thinking out loud.
That's a great question. And right now, there are zero human rights considerations, which is part of another couple articles. One in particular was written by a woman, and it was her perspective on the situation. And she had extreme concerns about some of the things that the CEO for Tilly was talking about, and basically having a huge danger toward women in entertainment, because the way the CEO, who is also a woman, was talking about Tilly was that you can make her do whatever you want without any argument.
Oh, Jesus.
The video is so creepy. It's like, she'll do anything you want.
And then we have
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It is not even subtly creepy. It is so creepy.
the idea of approaching a human rights aspect with Tilly is so not even in the periphery of the creators of it that it just leads to me seeing it as somebody created a digital character and thought they had a way to market it. But the idea of having an AI actress, I'm going to deviate from the articles for a minute here. If you're going to go into the concept of an AI actress versus what they're currently pushing, you actually have to have a functional, advanced AI capable of independent thought, which we don't have yet.
Yeah.
And then you have to have that AI be able to choose the face and the image of the character it's being represented as. And we don't have that yet. So I feel a lot like the company is way, way jumping ahead for their marketing. They keep using the term AI actress. Particle 6 and their parent company keeps pushing Tilly as being an AI actress. But even Sean Astin has come out to do some interviews because he's currently leading Sag-Aftra. And he's talked about this as, this is not an actor. This is an amalgamation computer program. And by the way, who did you steal all of this likeness from? Because nobody's going to have their likeness as a professional actor done for this purpose.
Considering how bad it looks, I don't think they stole it from anyone, because the only AI that I've ever seen that looks good for a lot of faces is when it actually emulates someone else.
Yeah.
Like for Sora 2, the only Sora 2 you really see is of Sam Altman. And that's because there's so many images of Sam Altman that it's trained on that it does look like Sam Altman, and it has good consistency for him. Like there's one or two of the actors that look okay in the video. I have the video up right now and I'm just kind of watching it over and over again. And it is just,
it's rough.
It looks awful. Like I have no idea how they released this as a serious product.
And how they released it as a serious product at the Cannes Film Festival.
Oh, they released this at Cannes?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I guess I have a question for the group, because this is really speculative, but like, if this was ever to take off, like if Tilly became, like, say 5 years from now, a mainstream actor, Like, I don't know. I feel like current audiences will reject anything when they know the actor is AI, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe people will accept that, but I'd certainly reject it. Like, I hate AI for obvious reasons. Like, if I knew that I was watching a show where an actor was completely AI generated, I would stop watching that show. I feel like right now, at least at this point in history, I feel like that sentiment is relatively universal, but I leave it to the group. You guys tell me if I'm right or wrong.
I would definitely echo and agree with that. The current sentiment and climate that I've encountered for AI is primarily negative.
I would counter though with, I don't think our age group and around it, I think this is starting to be developed to be targeted towards the younger TikTok generation. You're only watching short form content on your phone because one, AI really struggles with anything really much longer than 10-second clips to keep that consistency. So it really only works with short clips. And it also only really works on small handheld devices. Like, I don't think we're anywhere near close enough to a model that can do something that you'd put on some like a theatrical screen. But I don't think that's what they're aiming for at the moment.
I would have to say that AI is improving very quickly, though. I mean, just in the last couple of years, you couldn't have something that looks, this good enough. But yeah, in a couple more years, who knows where it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's entirely possible that this is pre-marketing for that.
I don't know. I think on some level, I'm less concerned about the development of AI as a technical process, and I'm more concerned about, will society accept and integrate it, or will it reject it? Because again, I personally reject it, but I don't know if that's the way society is going to go.
Yeah, when I think about like the whole digital actress thing, in my mind, the thing that kind of plays in my head is like a projected hologram from like Blade Runner or something, where it's something used for like marketing purposes, like a spokesperson. I can see where, we just play things on loop and it's set, and then you can just have things programmed in. I think that people wouldn't even bat an eye at, unless you're talking about like, like AT&T spokesperson or certain people where you kind of recognize them, or like Flo,
I love Flo.
Oh, 100%. She feels very personable, like you don't mind approaching you and just selling you insurance. In terms of something like an actor, it's weird, right?
It's all weird, man. And that's something that shouldn't be lost on the group. Like, guys, this is weird. This is not okay. This is fucking weird. Sorry, Mike, continue. You said it was weird and I landed on it. I was like, yeah, weird. Okay, anyway, sorry. Please continue.
Emphasize that word. Probably have to have it blasted, like neon lights flashing, like weird. It is weird. Yeah, because I know they've been trying to do the whole thing with background actors. That was in contention for a while. Like, do they scan these people and just reuse them in the background? That was up for debate within Hollywood, and that's something that was kind of brought up. I don't know if it was really resolved during the strikes, but it definitely was something that people expressed concerns about.
It wasn't resolved. It was put on hold like half of the other discussions.
Yeah. The strikes really didn't end up doing much for benefit.
Yeah, it seems like everything, right, from the demic to the strikes, everything hyper accelerated to where it's like, how do we cut our overhead? What's the biggest overhead we have to come at the star, which used to be a huge selling point? I know I see sometimes people kind of highlight, do we still have movie stars? You mentioned like our film has a Tom Cruise or a Brad Pitt. Like, does that still get butts in the seats, as they say, and drive ticket sales? But some of us still feel like it does. Some of us still want to see like a face drive a film, especially since it's not like these stories are all that great anymore.
Yep.
ChatGPT has already competed against a lot of Hollywood scripts.
Yeah, expanding upon that, is it a valid concern that this is going to be the thing that's going to like get people to lose more jobs in the industry? Like, how valid is that concern?
I think it's incredibly valid. Well, quick question. Do all of us live in America? I live in Massachusetts.
Nope, I live in Canada, the land of the free.
I know Eric's up in Montreal, but the rest of the people on the call outside of Eric, do we all live in America?
Yes.
West LA.
Bit north of LA.
Okay. So I guess like my main concern is like I understand technology evolves and develops and blah 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 blah. But we do not live in a country that has an economy that supports that. And what I mean is like if technology were to replace us, there is no alternative for us. Like it's just we're garbage. You know what I mean? It doesn't work that way.
According to our administration, if the AI takes your jobs, then the average American needs to just either go out to a field or get a factory job.
It's a good thing those factories aren't run by robots at all. And that's just humans putting everything together like they did 50 years ago.
Oh, wait.
I guess I'm not completely settled on my mindset, I guess is what I'm saying. I totally understand that technology develops and eventually like human input becomes obsolete. That's happened 1,000 times over history, blah, blah, blah. But again, my concern is that we do not have a country or an economy that supports that type of development. Like it's literally just whoever gets put out of work is out of work and that's it. Like,
no.
I mean, yeah, that's the way we're kind of set up here in America is that if your job has been made obsolete, then I guess you got to find a new career.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got family members that, as weird as this is going to sound, coming from the VFX trenches where we're all from, I have extended family who are upper echelon in some other larger studio situations. And between pandemic and writer strikes, some of the larger studio situations are just failing right now. They have some work coming in, but the cost to run the company is now higher than their ability to actually bring in income. So one of these larger servicing studios that family works with is talking about closing their doors by the end of the year. And that's just flat out horrifying because they're a service company that works with every other major studio worldwide, and they may close their doors because hit after hit between pandemic and economy and strikes and other strikes and everything is just, they're a mess.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that, we always reacting to, like, you have cause and effect, right? It makes a lot of sense to us to see like the end result of, okay, they're trying to downsize, they're trying to cut back on jobs, they're trying to eliminate as much of the overhead as possible. Our gut reaction tends to be like, oh, these guys are just assholes, or, it's very vindictive, or maybe they just want to fill their pockets with more money. But what we fail to realize is sometimes is that, I would see it time to time, some of the places I worked at in terms of seeing how close they are to always closing their doors. They're always just one project from not coming in, for something falling through. And all they need is like a few lined up to just completely like miss the mark. And then next thing you know, they're like have to shut down. So I know so many studios I've worked at where I hear openly talking about, we got another investor, we got to take on another loan, we got to get a new project to pay for the last project. So many situations where it's this kind of domino effect where if one thing falls through, that could be it. So for those who don't have that understanding behind the scenes, you just think like, oh, the rich just want to get richer, and that's just a flat out based narrative. And sometimes we don't realize that some of these guys are barely hanging on or barely getting by year to year. And unfortunately, it's at this critical point where studios and companies that used to be able to pay for having hundreds, which is the studios that we worked at sometimes, or other industries where they have thousands of people that they would hire. Now the company can only actually afford to keep on a fraction. And that's a harsh reality that's coming to fruition. But at the same time, you're like, okay, but what do we do with all these displaced people who no longer have a job? I know all of us collectively, you could probably put like a century worth of experience in.
Yep.
So all that has just been like, well, we just can't bring you guys on anymore. Now we got to find other creative ways, like, I don't know, trying to start a podcast to see if we can, have still some connection to this industry.
I don't know, man. I'm really curious to hear from the group about this, but like 1,000 years ago when they had the strikes and all that, like I really thought good things were coming out of that. Like I really thought, okay, this is about to swing back the other way. This is about to turn around, but then it never did. And now, got to be honest, I've gotten pretty nihilistic about it. I'm like, I'm really happy that I'm currently employed to work on an indie animated project for a couple months, but like it just feels like that's all there is anymore is just a couple month projects. There's no like serious jobs. There's no like full-time.
There's so few, yeah. It's so rare to see anything. At most of the major studios, even VFX soups are contract.
Yeah.
It's year-to-year contracts.
Like, I really thought it was going to swing back, and it just never did. And now it looks like it never will. So, I don't know. Sorry, everyone. I'm pretty nihilistic.
I think we all feel the same.
Yeah, I think we're all feeling that.
Things are a little more hopeful in Canada, fortunately. Nihilism hasn't hit the Canadian.
Well, we live in the States, Eric.
Yep.
Communist.
We're socialists, thank you.
For me, I watched the last couple strikes as they tied together happen, and I got what I expected, which was very little.
The strikes just happened at a really bad time. That was it. It was just that perfect thing of like, it was just after the COVID boom, right after everyone just started throwing way too much money in again, because they were all expecting that COVID viewership to stay, even though there was no longer a pandemic. So it's like people are going back to their lives. They aren't trapped inside anymore. Entertainment is a competition for time. And when you couldn't go outside, you lost that element of time.
Yeah, the timing was really bad because I know the average person was struggling a lot to make ends meet and to recover from it. And unfortunately,
there was massive inflation right after the pandemic. So everything was massively increasing in prices.
They should have waited. It should have been like, let's allow things to bounce back even now because everyone was suffering.
Yeah, it didn't work for the actors in the end either, or the writers. It ended up just making it worse, unfortunately, just because it's like, oh, we came back, but we have to cut budgets now. And studios have not been able to figure out the streaming situation. Netflix is the only, I guess they're starting to slowly get there. I guess Disney Plus is expected to turn a profit this year.
All right. So this AI actress,
Norwood.
Tilly Norwood. Okay. Like, I don't know. Again, I feel like we're too early in the timeline to know what this ultimately means. Like, I hate this. I hate the AI actor thing, the Tilly Norwood thing, generative AI. I despise all of it. And I feel like right now at this point in history, my personal opinion probably mirrors most Americans at least. And I hope it stays that way. But if it doesn't, it's like, is this whole industry just going to become like an AI garbage pit?
Sora 2 is kind of like that. Sora 2 is effectively a social media app to share short form content generated by AI. That's how OpenAI is trying to go after it. And that's probably the best play for generative AI would be for that kind of TikTok style short form generation, where it's just quick next to next dopamine hits.
Listen, everyone, there is a part of my heart that desperately hopes and weeps for humanity. I'm like, please, people, the younger people, don't go for this, don't accept this, don't endorse this. But the more cynical part of me believes it's probably going to happen. I don't know.
I don't think it's going to catch on for our generation. Maybe the people directly behind us.
Yeah, I think Gen Z and above.
Yeah.
I think the real thing would be looking at people who are now like currently 12 to 15 years old or something like that.
Yeah, the Gen Alpha generation skibbity brain rot.
Yeah, people who grew up with short form content as their main source of entertainment. Because I hear from parents all the time that it's like, oh, yeah, my kid has no attention span anymore. That's one reason why a lot of Hollywood movies are going down, too, is the generation of people who watch long form content is dying off now.
Yeah.
And we grew up with it, so we enjoy it. But yeah, the young generation didn't grow up with watching, 2-3 hour movies.
I saw an opinion piece from a reporter who was also a mother, and her kid was, I think, like 8 or 9 now. And she was just noticing that the kid was a bit on the uncontrollable side, that there was zero attention span, that everything was an immediate. If it didn't happen perfectly the first time, then it was awful and they never wanted anything to do with it. And she was paying attention to the media that the kid was consuming. And it was very much all of this like 5-10 second instant dopamine hit, something to make you smile, then swipe to the next thing. So she completely derailed the kid, pulled him away from the tablets and phones and things that he was consuming media on. And she sat him down for like 90s Saturday morning cartoons. And she had noticed that within a month, the kid had a complete and total change of personality. He was way calmer. He was actually able to start forming coherent sentences and expressing the way he was feeling and thinking about things. And she just pushed him back to a content that was enjoyable, but was actually requiring more of an attention span.
It's hilarious. I mean, when you think of 90s cartoons, already people at our age would have been like, our parents would have looked at 90s cartoons and been like, this is brain rot. I mean, I grew up watching Transformers and He-Man, which were literally cartoons only made to sell toys.
Eric, I fundamentally agree with you. I would just say, I feel like the age of the internet.
Oh, it's drastically different.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious to look back and just kind of be like, man, yes, I'm showing my kid My Little Pony from the 1980s, and you use it for, this is the quality cartoons we should try to learn.
But even that stuff is, yes, I completely agree. It was brain rot for our generation. Even that is like nothing compared to like the way the modern day, like whole internet works.
I feel like the best way to compare it is short form TikTok is like fentanyl.
Yep, absolutely.
And 90s cartoons were just crack cocaine. You're like, it was so innocent back in our days.
I would actually go further. I would say that modern day content is fentanyl. I agree. But previous day content was like weed. Like it ain't great for you, but it's not that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think RFK needs to look into AI's cause of autism.
No more Tylenol for me.
Right.
Oh my god.
You gotta get off the AI and the Tylenol, or you're gonna get the autism.
I have some serious concern for this upcoming generation and their ability to actually not just focus on day-to-day tasks, but I worry about basically a death of creativity out of them.
I could so see this. This almost feels like the start of Idiocracy.
Right.
Instead of the weird eugenics thing that Idiocracy was doing, that it's like, oh no, it's AI that will do it. I feel like the biggest problem with AI at the moment, and it affects the youngest generation the most, is just watching the problems that college grads are having at the moment. Because the one area that AI does really well, like ChatGPT can do some impressive. I still don't trust it because it is so wrong all the time. Like, oh my God, I don't understand how anyone uses it as like a search engine where it's like, oh, I asked ChatGPT to know something. It's like, that's a terrible idea. You have to check everything for ChatGPT. But for doing like actual kind of like writing down things or just the general things you would send for a junior or someone just starting off, because whenever you start off, it's more about learning the process of the studio. And oftentimes that's learning something fairly entry level that AI is perfectly equipped to do. And you're going to create this problem of you're going to have all these intermediate and senior people, but as they leave, you're going to have no juniors to replace them. And this is starting to become a problem in a lot of industries now, where you're seeing that as kind of the old guard leaves and retires, that they're starting to hit worker shortages because they never hired any juniors to start learning properly. Because they were just like, oh, yeah, no, we're going to have AI do that. It makes way more sense from a financial standpoint to do that. But it's like, we don't live forever. The people who can fix the AI and do the more complex stuff still need to exist. And if you're not training them up and because you're not hiring them for AI, you hit all kinds of bottlenecks later on. AI is terrible for Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha is completely screwed because of AI. Yeah, you never start doing something you enjoy. You start doing grunt work. And a big part of that is built into how everyone else learned. Like with a 40 or 50-year-old that's now running that company, there's a good chance they started as an intern doing grunt work. So they're like, well, you got to do the grunt work.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're no longer hiring the people to do the grunt work because you're doing all the grunt work with AI, you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy there.
The company will die.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, because now it's like you need all these hyper experienced, knowledgeable people, but you look at the younger generation, like I don't think they have the attention span or the discipline, unfortunately, to really kind of put in that level of hard work that involves a lot of the basics. Like I thought it was the craziest thing when I saw like a news report. It was a few weeks ago. By the time it comes out, maybe it might be like over a month, where there was this report of this young girl who graduated high school with honors. But she's like, yeah, just so you guys know, I can't read or write.
I've seen a few of that.
Yeah, because they just ran everything through ChatGPT. Like they would dictate to the software what to write, and then they would have it read to them out loud. So they didn't have to read the words themselves. So you have people who do not have the basic fundamental skills.
Yeah, I could not imagine trying to be a teacher at the moment, where it's just like writing essays nowadays. It's like if I had ChatGPT back when I was a kid, I guarantee I would not have done any essay writing at all.
Yep.
I would have cheated there.
I'm totally with you. I would have too, 100%.
Do I write essays all the time? No, I never write essays. But one of the things it does do is it forces you to do something you don't like doing.
Yep.
But it does build critical skills of critical reasoning, critical thinking. Even if you absolutely hate it, it's good to do things you hate.
Well, I live with two friends who are both high school teachers, and they tell me about this. They tell me about how bad this is. Like, people have like glasses now that have AI technology built in. Like, it's stupid, and it's teaching far more difficult.
I think you had a point to make, Alex.
I see the same thing from my wife and her English students, because most of the classes she's teaching, while yes, she's brought comics into the classroom to help keep them engaged and interested, she's dealing mostly with freshmen and sophomore. So she's been seeing more and more that her students are coming in, and she has to go through and reteach the basics of how to actually write an essay, pretty much from scratch. Of a paragraph needs to be 3 sentences. Paragraphs need to actually have a consistent, coherent thought throughout the entire paragraph. These are things that she has to lay out for the students, because she's now starting to get some of the high school kids that were basically shunted in pandemic. And it's a night and day difference between students that she had a few years ago and students she has now.
Yeah, that lines up very much with what my friends are telling me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the pandemic did not do education any favors.
Oh, no. It killed it. It's ridiculous.
It's going to be an entire generation that somewhere along the way, pandemic has derailed education for it's going to be like that whole 10, 12-year span of American education.
Yeah.
Anybody that was in education at that point is going to be hindered.
I'm kind of hoping that we make a correction at some point to kind of help fix it for the next generation, because I feel like we've just kind of screwed Gen Alpha so much that it's going to take years to recover that. It's like, I don't think they're going to hit a lot of major milestones until decades after what Gen Z or the millennials did. I think it's going to be a real struggle for them, unfortunately, just because we've really failed them. Sorry, Gen Alpha.
Well, look, I have a question for the group. Like, when it comes to the Tilly Norwood thing, when it comes to the lack of education, like, obviously I hate it, and I expect everyone that's on this call hates it. But my question is, when it comes to Tilly Norwood, is this going to be something that becomes successful in the next 5, 10, 20 years? Like, will this work? Will AI acting work? I hope it doesn't. I personally hate it, but I'm just asking, what do you guys think about like the actual overall projection? Like, does this become a thing, or is it like NFTs, which we all remember NFTs, right?
Do we?
Like it's one of those things, like it seemed like it might be a big thing for a slight moment and then it was nothing. And I guess I'm just wondering if this is going to be the same thing where like, is AI acting the same thing as NFTs where like 2 weeks from now, none of us will think about it because it doesn't matter anymore? Does it have staying power? That's my question to the group.
You're asking, is it going to be an NFT or is it going to be a Bitcoin?
I mean, is there a difference? I don't know.
Well, Bitcoin's at its highest levels now and doing great. NFTs are
Well, that's what I'm asking. Like, so fine. Is it going to be Bitcoin or is it going to be NFT or is it going to be its own like bizarre thing? Like, what the fuck is happening?
I think in the end, it's probably going to be its own little bizarre thing. The end-to-end solution is never, I think, going to fully work. I think what's going to be profitable in the end is something like the ability to create certain elements with it that you can actually use for AI to then sell to things studios. Because again, like, man, I would so love the ability to just do AI generated fog and water splashes and stuff like that. I could see use for that. But the problem I find with the end to end, you just don't have that granular control that a lot of creatives would really want. It's really good for you just want something quick and slapdash to throw together. And that's why I think what they're trying to do with Sora 2 is probably kind of the future for that style of generative AI. It doesn't have to look good. It just has to be memeable effectively. They're using it for just pure quick entertainment and just like, oh man, look how hilarious that is. Oh man, look, here's Stephen Hawking's doing the Hell in a Cell dive that The Undertaker did.
I totally understand what you're saying. Like, I guess the part of it that I have a problem with is like, is that what media and entertainment is going to become? Is it just going to be this like AI slop?
That is a general concern because it could be that, that it could be time consuming enough that people are just like, I just want to see this character doing this one thing, or I just want to see this happen to this, and not really care about how it looks.
There's multiple future possibilities of this. Like there's a possibility that it completely succeeds and AI just basically replaces all artists. There's also a different possibility where like AI generated media is so unpopular and so unaccepted that it becomes like a stigma. I don't know what direction it's going to go, and it could go any of these directions. All I know is that I personally hate generative AI, and I hope to God it does not succeed. That's all I'm going to say.
I think Google and OpenAI and Meta are all right now kind of semi-shooting themselves in the foot with how early they're pushing the end-to-end generative, because it still just doesn't look good enough. And because it doesn't look good enough, it's everyone's first impression of AI. When you think of AI, it's like even nowadays, it still looks pretty bad for the visual generative. And unfortunately, it's our first impression. So when you think of AI, you're like, oh yeah, Will Smith eating spaghetti and it looks like garbage. And it's like, sure, there's better videos of it now, but they're still not super great. So even then, you still have that kind of stigma of, like, again, looking at the Tilly Norwood video, that it's still not good enough. So it still brings a negative light to AI.
Allow me to give you a scenario. I completely agree with you. I think right now it's not there. It is not there. But if we think like 10 years in the future, it probably will be there or close to there. And my question is like, does that matter? It matters to me in that I hate it. I don't want things to go this way, but AI at the state it currently is, give it another 10 years and it's going to be better in some way or some function. And that's probably not good for us. I don't know. I'm not even sure what my question is. I'm just saying, like, what do you think about that?
I'll give you the devil's advocate scenario and give you a comparison that is probably going to garner me a little bit of hate from this room. But if you look at the animation difference between Hanna-Barbera and He-Man versus Vox Machina, we've had a lot of time to develop art styles and tools and things to create something that people of all ages can enjoy and increase the quality and production speed of the artistic side behind it. If you apply that same principle to, like we just said, where AI is still very rough right now, in 10 years, we may have generative AI that is at the same point equivalent now that animation is versus what it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yep.
And that being the case, we might see a shift at that point. I don't think generative AI is ready now for what is being pushed with this concept, with this particular agency trying to push a generative character as an AI actor. I think in order for it to actually be considered an AI actor, to round it back to what I had mentioned earlier, we need a general AI intelligence that can actually make its own decisions. And we need that general intelligence to have a definitive decision on what it's going to look like as an actor. And that, I think, will actually fit the definition that they're trying to push way too early as an AI actor.
And to be fair, we might never reach that. I think what they're doing with Sora and Vio and stuff like that, the reason they're showing the end-to-end AI thing is they're showing, imagine the possibilities of the future. They're using this mostly for investment, I think.
Well, dude, it's just like that Elon Musk thing where he like displayed the human robot that was just a person in a skin suit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's exactly the same thing.
Or that AI company that was literally just like 600 people in India.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there was that trended thing of AI stands for actually Indians.
And at the Chinese technology shows either this year or the end of last year, where companies that were supposedly having AI-driven robots on the floor was actually having actors and actresses in makeup and in bodysuits with some plating added on. Yeah, there's been a big push media-wise saying that Chinese robotics is overtaking and they're going to have bipedal androids that are the thing of science fiction, but it's not. It's people dressed up as it, trying to show what the company could do in 10 years.
I mean, yeah, that's exactly what Tesla did. Like, I don't know how many years ago. It was like 5 or 6 years ago. But
the robot thing was last year. That Tesla's robot thing where they were literally just remote controlled. That was not a long time ago. That might have been earlier this year, actually. It just feels like a year because of how this has been, 2025.
Maybe I'm totally off, but I feel like there was a different thing like 4 or 5 years ago where it was exactly the same thing, where it was people dressed in literally like spandex skin suits pretending to be robots. And it's like, this is not what the world is. What the
Yeah, for the visual style generative AI, I think the main reason a lot of companies are pushing this out right now is to get investment dollars.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I don't think the generative models will ever be a profit driver for them. I think they're using it completely or almost completely as an investment style tool. So they're like, all right, we'll put a lot of time and effort into this so we can draw billions and billions of dollars of initial venture capital funds to really get going. Because I think where you're going to make money is from the more broken down iterative stuff where you're just kind of like, all right, so it specializes in this instead of like, oh, you just type in whatever and it will be a perfect representation of what you want. And a part of that too is a lot of AI companies now are starting to find the cost problems and they're starting to hit that. For a lot of the training that they've been doing, they've been finding that you pretty much need exponentially more material to reach that like extra 1%. I think AI is probably not going to ever reach full perfect, like 100%. It looks great. You could not tell it different from like a live person just because of how much data you would need to train on it and how expensive that is. And especially now that you're starting to see problems with things like power distribution. Like for a lot of the stuff, you would need data centers that effectively require more power than Manhattan would require in a day. And it's hard to think, oh yeah, we're going to use hundreds and hundreds of gigawatts or terawatts of power to just use basically like a TikTok thing, that it's just not profitable at that point. I think what they're all trying to do is get that initial funding so they can develop models that they can actually specialize in to then sell. That's where I think their money will be made.
Just to go along with that, I feel like that's kind of the end goal with the project Stargate that's going on, where they're trying to build the massive AI data center that all of those specialty AIs would then be housed inside of one of those large data centers.
That's the thing. It's like once you have the AI data center, you don't have to do just the same AI. You can use that for whatever AI training you want. You don't have to dedicate it to generative VO AI. It's just compute.
Right.
So you can pivot to whatever is going to be profitable. The only way I see generative AI being profitable is through something like what Sora 2 is doing, where it's effectively an app where it's trying to go for really short dopamine hits, where you don't need to have quite amazing quality. So you don't need to use all that expensive compute to be like, oh yeah, no, if you look at the reflection in the eye, you can tell it's wrong. It's like they're not going to spend an extra $100 billion to fix that. They're looking for an audience that's like, okay, this audience is fine with the quality of this currently. We can use this to kind of fund other things. This will be a little bit of a side profit for us. We could make several billion for it, but this is not where you're going to make your $1 trillion company.
Which ties back to Norwood and this project. And I feel like they're barking up the wrong tree, especially since the company was trying to get actual actor representation for a digital construct.
Yeah, I don't think Particle 6 will exist as a company in 3 or 4 years. Because again, that's been something we've seen tons of since AI started off. Is like, I remember when you saw they were doing all these like AI keychains that were literally just ChatGPT attached to a keychain, but it ran worse than ChatGPT on a phone, where it's just everyone's seeing that AI is just such a buzzword that they're like, oh man, we need to do AI because AI gets investors. I think it's kind of like what VR was a few years ago, where a lot of game studios were trying to create VR stuff because venture capitalists would fund anything with VR. It's like if you had VR in it, they're like, well, VR is the future. And it very much will probably be the future sometime in the future. It's just not there yet.
Yeah.
But the big thing is, you jump on it because it's just a real easy way to get money, because people just see it. They don't know better. They want to invest their money in something that is going to grow in the future. And they know AI is going to grow in the future, and it will. AI will definitely become a huge industry and be in every industry out there. It's like we already use AI in film. I mean, Nuke has the Cattery stuff, so that you can do paint and stuff like that. A lot of VFX studios are now using comfyui for at least some stuff, not really the generative functions. It's much more for things like, oh yeah, no, I want to make a normal map of this footage, or I need a good depth map for this footage. And comfyui is really good at doing that kind of thing. And another thing also that I think is kind of a real thorn in the side of the generative AI, like I can tell from the Tilly footage that they're probably not using training library that was trained on a lot of probably celebrity footage, or actually like copyrighted footage. Because a lot of the stuff that you see from stuff like Sora 2 that looks really good was trained on copyrighted footage. The Motion Picture Association today already sent out a cease and desist to Sora because it was trained on all kinds of copyrighted stuff. And I think I remember seeing at one point someone was saying like, oh man, they were showing like some of the Nintendo stuff with like the Mario Kart stuff. And I think Sam Altman said something to the effect of like, man, I hope Nintendo doesn't try to sue us. And you're like, ah, yes, Nintendo, the famously non-litigious company that sues everyone.
Right.
Like you cannot use generative AI in anything in VFX at the moment, not even for background fill content. And the main reason is no studio wants to be involved in the IP nightmare the really good models are trained off of. Again, like Lionsgate originally did an AI deal with, was it Anthropic or can't remember. It was one of the big AI companies, but
might have been Anthropic that they were going to sell their library to train.
And it's doing terrible because there's not enough data in anyone's library. Like, you need that billions and billions and billions of frames of footage. Like, the stuff that was literally trained on just the internet looks pretty good. And again, like Sora 2 looks pretty good overall. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of content that isn't just like OpenAI's kind of demo reel for it, which is all very curated pieces. So I don't know how well it works out in the open, because even VO3, the curated pieces they show looked really good. And I'm assuming this uses something like VO3 with maybe kind of a fair use model of some sort, so they don't get into complete legal trouble. And that's where you see these problems, like watching the Tilly Norwood video. Just look at the teeth. Every shot where a person talks, their teeth are not consistent. You look at their bottom row of teeth and it's just one giant tooth, or their teeth shift in sizes, or their teeth look awful. And like their pupils are inconsistent sizes. It's all over the place. It is just, and then you, of course, some of the characters have that overly smooth skin that you often get from AI. It's like, or my favorite is there's a girl with a nose ring, but her nose rings kind of keep changing on how many nose rings she has. And only one of her nose rings makes sense. Like the other part, she has like a nose ring that goes through the center, like a general kind of like right through that central part of the nose. And she has one on one of the nostrils. And it constantly shifts between like being 1 to 3 rings coming out of her right nostril. And you're just like, it's real obvious stuff. And that's things you just can't get over with the free models, because the free models have not been trained on enough. You need insane amount of base images to train from.
And the part of where I see the AI actress conversation taking a turn is when we get into things like OpenAI's announcement, where they're going to try and create an animated feature that's supposed to rival Disney and Pixar with Critters. They've already dropped trailer for it. They're touting that it's going to be 1/10 of the budget for an animated feature and only need a staff of like 30 people to make an entire animated feature.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that turns out.
There's a bitter part of me that really hopes that it's terrible.
Well, fortunately, that seems to be a common thing for a lot of the full AI projects, because a lot of it is they're trying to cut so much, so they aren't really bringing on talent that can kind of QC the work to be like, oh yeah, I know why that looks bad. They're effectively just kind of like, it's good enough. And if it's just good enough, of course, it's also going to be hard to get a lot of talented artists to want to work on it, to be like, oh yeah, no, I'll go through and I'll tell you what's wrong with this stuff and I'll tell you how we can fix it in the end. Like, fortunately, almost everything that's generative AI is done by someone without an artistic eye at all, and almost always looks terrible because they don't have any real artistic vision to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, the real concern would be if you started seeing a lot of really talented artists start picking it up. But fortunately, the artist community seems to be very against it. And because of that, you're just not seeing AI develop well, because it's not being driven by anyone with an artistic vision, because anyone with an artistic vision generally doesn't want to use AI as a main driver.
I want to know what happened to the concept when we were growing up, where if we had AI and if we had, Android, robot, whatnot, it was going to take care of the menial tasks. It was going to do the farm work. It was going to clean the house, so that we would actually be open to explore the writing and the art and all of the interesting depth of mind things that humans are capable of. Instead, we've flipped the script in real life, and people have decided that art is so banal that it needs to be created at cost.
I think part of the reason generative AI exists is accidentally because of trying to train that brain for robotics. Because effectively right now, that what they're doing is like, if you have something that can identify every object and what it looks like, you can pretty much extrapolate a way to be like, oh, you know what? Let's try make it generate that. It's already looked at 1 billion different cats, so it knows what a cat looks like. It's a way to test what its visual capability is, to be like, cool, we need you to know what cats are to 100% certainty. We need this to help kind of train that up to be like, yep, no, this all looks good. Because the kinematics aren't quite there for robots yet. That's the biggest problem with robotics is the fine-tuned kinematics just have not matched quite what they want to do. Like even when you look at stuff from like Boston Robotics, it's really impressive stuff, but it's not generationally drastic compared to like what they were showing with the robo dogs from 20 years ago. It's definitely a lot better, but it's not what you would think in 20 years would be the difference. Robotics seems to be moving at a much slower pace. But if you can train the brain first, you can get much further with the robotics in the end, because you need the brain for the robotics to interact with people. It needs to be able to visually identify everything it's seeing and know how it works and what to expect from what it's seeing in the world around it. So effectively, they're creating their own little virtual worlds. Some of the most interesting stuff being done with AI right now, and also some of the scariest, is training AI to learn in video games. It's really clever because effectively you have to train the AI to think. But they've been doing stuff where they have things like AI play hospital simulators, where it's just complete management, and they develop AI to run that. Because effectively, you could develop an AI to run a hospital. It looks at patients, it looks at the common problems. A lot of games are developed with a lot of complex rule sets, but it's a safe ground that you can just throw AI in. And if AI screws up in a digital world, it's fine. No one's going to get hurt.
The fun thing about that I've seen recently was that most of those AIs that are being thrown into game scenarios are getting to a point where they realize they can win faster if they cheat.
Oh, yeah. No, it's absolutely hilarious because it's having completely unintended side quest. We've been trying to do walk cycles forever. When they were doing the AI training of walk cycles, they were finding that the AI would come up with its own unique ways where it would try to like drag the body of the person because it was finding that as the most efficient way. And it was just these nightmare looking animation scenarios because it was finding that to be the most efficient way to do inverse kinematics for a human body. It's like humans would be way more efficient if they walked like this. And you're like, that's not how they walk, though. Why did you do that?
I like the version of that I saw where the AI was tasked to create the kinematic thing that could cross this amount of distance the fastest, and it basically created a stick.
Yep.
It was a horrifyingly mangled, multi-angled stick, but it was a stick because the stick stacked up high enough could cross the distance in one motion from point A to point B.
Yeah, AI won't act like that asshole 11-year-old that's like, yeah, see, I did the task. And you're like, God damn it, that's not what I meant. But I did it.
Do you have something you were going to throw in there a little bit back, Lucas?
I mean, earlier I was just going to say that, I think it's presented in a way, I'm just going to use plugins and things like that for programs where, it's super polished. You don't see any of the seams, not until, you say you purchase something and then you start actually trying to use it, and then you'll see that it only works in a controlled environment, in a controlled situation where it really shines for what they're trying to sell. And when you start using it, you quickly learn that, yeah, it does what it's meant to do, but it's still lacking. And it's going to lag for a long time. And ultimately, it's just a tool. I personally don't like it because it, displaces a lot of us in many ways and in ways that we probably don't even know. But I feel that in due time, it is going to be more and more out there, and we're going to be using it whether we like it or not. And it's just going to be a tool. Like when Photoshop came out, the top tool at the time was the blur tool. And then it was the lens flare. And, those things looked horrible, but in due time, you can't even tell what a digital one looks like versus a real one, unless you have the eye for that. But it's just a tool, and it's a tool. It's in the necessity. Well, not for us, but ultimately, the tool still requires, someone to handle it. And that's why it's called a tool.
That's why I think the future for AI is stuff like comfyui. Like comfyui is already and being used commercially in studio. It's well developed, and comfyui is not super simple. I think a big problem that they're trying to do with the generative AI is text to image, text to video. That's a terrible way to get your point across. You cannot iterate very well on that. You need really fine-grained controls because a lot of people don't know why something looks wrong. You can't be like, oh yeah, fix that. You kind of look at like, something's wrong here. It's like you really need that granular control to be like, all right, go in and break down this. And like in comfyui does do a little bit of everything. You can do audio, you can do video, you can do images. But the thing is, it breaks it down into so many subcategories. So effectively, it is a general generative AI where you can effectively do full videos. But a lot of the times, how you're creating something good in it is you're breaking it down into, all right, here's my element for a character. Here's the element for their arm. That's its own generative AI. It's a whole bunch of generative AI nodes. You're effectively building just like, all right, here's the BG plate. That's its own generative AI. Here's a smoke layer. That's its own generative AI. Like throwing it all in at once is just basically uncontrollable.
Yep.
I do not understand the idea of text to image. It's a terrible way to do it. It's like I've worked with so many people that they'll tell you, they'll just be like, yeah, just do that. And you're like, what do you mean by that? You always have to kind of figure out what they mean because a lot of people, when they say something, don't mean what they actually say.
I mean, I haven't messed with any of this stuff too much, but I imagine, it's like learning like CSS or like Python. I imagine you had to, as you mentioned earlier, these aren't creatives, stuff generated for creatives. This is like more, I always forget the difference between left and right brain, but these are more of like analytical, more like academic leaning in terms of how they process and want to break this stuff down. So yeah, the tool method is the way to go. That's the thing I thought very unfortunate. There's such an effort to oversimplify and break things down.
Yeah. Look how simple this is. You're like, yeah, it's not going to work well if it's that simple.
I think one of my instructors at AI made a joke about it. Art Institute.
It's a different AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, different AI. Yeah, Lucas and I went there. There's no just do button. There's no like one click. It does everything for you. And unfortunately, it's almost like from the top down, they have that mentality of like, well, what if I just had that? To me, it's almost like, how can we almost potentially eradicate the entire department? So where I'm as a CEO, this is what I think should be done. And it just happens. And magically, everything kind of falls in place after that, where there's this lack of understanding. Like you still need specialists. You still need people who specialize in different areas, who have an understanding, have the eye, are able to interpret. And I always tell the same story. Like I always hated that one client I worked with who just said, make something cool.
Yeah.
I hate that.
And I was like, what is that? What does that mean? And then like 2 weeks after working on this commercial for them, they finally said, oh, this, and this is what I meant by cool. I'm like, thank you. Like now we can finally finish and deliver this project for you. It's like for an ad or something. And I'm like, that was so annoying.
People are terrible at expressing what they are thinking verbally and in written language. For Tilly Norwood, the only way I could see something where you could get something like this working is it's like, cool. It generated the base theme for her. And it's like, cool. Now you can go into there and it generated a rig for her.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can go in there and have rig control. So it's like, all right, I can move this eyelid down a little bit more and that. That's where I see generative AI working is you need to give that super fine-tuned control that you can't really explain, but you're just like, yeah, this area, that just needs to be nudged a little bit here. This needs to be nudged a little bit here. Play it back and be like, yep, that works. And then render that out.
Yeah, it's totally possible to make what they're trying to do work. I imagine too, like what I keep thinking is that they're going to do is almost cheat the whole entire time, where unfortunately get this poor girl, or you would have a series of actresses that would just come in and out and they would just be similar build, similar look, and they would just almost like mocap, and then it's just a digital replacement where this person would get zero credit. They get paid for whatever time they came in and did stuff for them. And then the whole time you just masquerade like we just create this completely from scratch, no human element used or applied. But it's almost like you have some like cheap indentured labor.
I mean, that's the way the more successful AI shorts that are on YouTube and Pinterest and those things are actually being made, is that they're taking actual footage of a person and then they're using the AI software to change what that person is or what their environment is. One of my writers is friggin' obsessed with the stupid Sasquatch comedy videos. There's a guy who's recording the voice, and he does like a little recording of himself, and then he plugs that into the AI and has the AI generate him as the Sasquatch.
I could see AI generation being real big for like VTubers. I feel bad for the artist because that is a pretty lucrative field, is to generate the rigs and controls for the VTubers. And I feel like that's one that AI could take over pretty well, from just like, oh yeah, just use a camera of you, and then it will rig that to whatever image you want. I feel like that is something AI is probably pretty close to being able to do.
So there's definitely applications, areas where, yeah, the whole Tilly thing, I expect that to crash and burn.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But I definitely see applications like you mentioned, like VTubers, so like Twitch streaming. I was one of those on my knees praying. I'm like, please, Lord, let them fully ban TikTok. That would solve so many of the world's problems. But, of course.
Don't worry. Larry Ellison now just gets to own it.
Of course, capitalism prevails, so that's not going to happen. Yeah, I think you guys are right. I think it's just more so marketed for the upcoming generation, which is why we're kind of having these conversations, because we really urge and preface that we should try to curve out of this tailspin that we're in while we still can, before we completely crash and burn. There's still a chance, but there has to be a concerted effort and realization and honesty about, okay, what can this actually do? How can this actually be applied? And the reality is, you still need a bunch of VFX artists and people who understand, CG, animation, visual effects to make this stuff applicable. And unfortunately, yeah, you can, theoretically downscale. I do think a lot of the industry is not going to come back. And that's just the way things are structured and headed towards. Eric mentioned more powerful tools that can assist the artists. But the idea that you could just eliminate artists and just have, like pencil pushers and people just typing prompts is ridiculous.
Yeah. The one industry that it has hurt a lot already, and I think will probably end up taking over for AI, would be ads. The ad commercials that used to be a lot of like the good old like CG bears from Coca-Cola, where you used to spend, several $1 million for your ad because you want an iconic ad. I've seen enough AI ads nowadays, and it's starting to become prevalent enough in the ad industry that I think the ad industry will be hit real hard artist-wise, because that's the main industry in the US now for VFX is ads.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my guess as to where the Tilly situation could actually take over.
I could see an AI actress for ads. I could easily say within the next 2 or 3 years that some company's going to have an AI spokesperson. I think that's almost guaranteed.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be a consistent AI spokesperson so much as whatever medical company has decided that instead of spending as much as they normally do on their ads, they hire some generative AI artists to come in and basically work in-house for them to roll out ads.
Yep. And that also gets over the other main hurdle of AI that you have. Studios won't use it because you can't copyright anything generated with AI at the moment. In ads, you don't have to worry about copyright.
You just care about selling the product.
Yeah. You're not trying to create a character that you're going to license off for toys or...
Yeah, things like the gecko. I'm pretty sure they'll figure something out, because he doesn't really do anything crazy. He just kind of walks around, talks. Yeah. And I don't think he has teeth. So
Yep. Like even on the Sora 2, their demo reel video that they released, anything that's not real world, anything that looks like it would require VFX at the moment, looks like mid-2000s VFX from like a mid-range movie. Like there's shots of like someone flying on a dragon, and it looks like it's a shot in front of a rear projection because there's nothing real it can use for that as a basis. It's like, well, I can't look at all this real footage of dragons that exists. It's like it has to look at all the CG that exists, and it starts to exacerbate the problems you get in CG, especially that it's looking at decades of CG. That's like, so like anytime you see anything that's fantastical, like you could get away with Chimera. That works okay as like the Chimera characters because you're combining two real animals. But the moment you start doing anything that doesn't exist, it starts to really struggle with rendering it realistically because it doesn't have anything to base off of for rendering realistically. Like I have yet to see anything with a dragon that looks good in AI. That's a full like this shot with a dragon or in CG environment. All that always looks really off in the end. I've even seen a lot of AI have matte issues because it picks up the matte issues from VFX. It literally looks like it's shot in front of a bad green screen and they had to roto a bunch of it because that's what its training would be off of. It's like, cool, I'm looking at this fantastical environment. That fantastical environment doesn't exist anywhere, so it has to train based off of VFX that already exists. And at that point, it just starts to exacerbates the VFX problems. And you're just like, oh my gosh.
And I do think that it comes at the most inopportune time where people are starting to call out, and at least the current audience has an eye for like, that doesn't look right. The amount of like normal people I know who don't work in the industry who see something and they tell me, oh, that right there took me out of the movie because it didn't look fully rendered. It didn't look polished. Like the color grading is like they're calling stuff out. Obviously, they're not using those terms, but they're able to kind of somewhat articulate and know like something's off. And I think that's the thing that's really funny with the whole Tilly situation is like people are so sensitive to looking at other people. Like we know that's why Beowulf, a lot of people had an issue when that came out. A lot of people had an issue with Polar Express because if something just doesn't look right with people, that's where we're the most critical. So to then you could just throw out an avatar that has all these issues in it. People are going to not sit well with it, especially in long forms. But unfortunately, a bunch of kids with horrible attention span, I don't know if they're going to be looking at the screen long enough.
I think for the full end-to-end, like text to image style, the quick creation AI, I think that's pretty much going to always stay as more short form. It just doesn't have the versatility to really push it past that.
Yeah. Mike, what you were talking about with Polar Express and Beowulf, the psychological term for that is the uncanny valley.
Yep.
And I love the fact that the human mind has one of two reactions for it. And it's been consistent for the uncanny valley. Either you don't consider it human and you treat it the same way that you would like a cartoon animated character. You either share as much empathy with it as something that would be drawn, or you want to kill it. That's the two reactions in the human brain. And there's something fundamental about the uncanny valley that even approached old or ancient sculpture work out of Greece and various cultures throughout history. It's been a thing where if people see something that is almost lifelike and it doesn't move like us and it doesn't talk like us, it needs to die.
It's a mimic. You were earlier talking about like cheap actors and use it for face replacements on them. There's a company that already does that and it's already worked in production. There's a company called Metaphysics AI that's entire thing is real-time AI face replacements. And it's really good. And they already have like the movie, I think it was called Here or something like that. It was a Tom Hanks movie. It came out a year or two ago. Basically used that as the basis. I mean, in the end, I think they ended up doing kind of comp treatment on the AI to help integrate it more in the end. But it's all based off of on-set live AI. And
Wow.
and even then, like all the face replacements nowadays, almost all of that we use deepfakes for. You have a stunt actor, you need to replace it with an actor's face, that's deepfake now.
Yeah. Very spirited discussion about AI, guys. Anyone have any closing thoughts? Let's go down the line.
I'll start. I think the entire reason for the Tilly Norwood video was so Particle 6 could get venture capitalist funding. That's it. I think that's the entire reason they did it. I'm not saying there's not a future for AI actresses, but I think for what they're doing, they did it to generate buzz, which it did. It was very successful at that, which is going to draw in investors who might want to invest more into them so they can do things in the future. But it's like they certainly do not have a pipeline down to do anything production worthy right now. And they're nowhere near it, unfortunately, for them.
Mm.
I think they literally just made this for investment. That's it.
Right on.
Generate buzz and investment.
All right. Want to go next, Alex?
I think that the main headline that pops up for articles or discussion is whether or not Hollywood needs to be worried about AI actresses. And the main thing is whether or not she could replace people as an actor. And I do not think that we are in a place where any actor needs to be concerned about it. The most that I think that company could do for their generation and have a degree of success is for commercial stuff, for medical commercials or for insurance, that kind of thing, where it's not even that they would market that particular one actor or actress. It's that they could create a product that could fit for those scenarios. And the idea of pursuing representation for a digital construct is on a level of absurdity that the only logical reason I can think of is to go along with the same that Eric had, that it's to generate hype, it's to get the attention, and they were very successful for that. But I don't think that their goals that they've stated are going to be successful, or even that the company is going to be largely successful in the future. I think that if they haven't made up the fact that they were talking to studios, none of the studios are actually going to ditch their physical actors, because there's no life and there's no ingenuity in having a digital construct read the lines exactly as it's provided. There's no soul in the digital constructs as we have them now.
Yeah, I think if you saw like an example where you're shocked by the performance, you're pulled in, like you mentioned, if there was this sense of like, wow, I really, really care about their performance, like it's just a tear-jerker lines they're delivering, you're like, wow, I can't believe that's not real. But at the moment, you don't have that at all.
Yeah. In their video for Tilly, there's a scene where they talk about having her cry on Graham Norton's couch, and it's ugly.
That's the scene I'm paused on right now. That's where I've been this entire discussion. And actually, that's one of the better looking shots. And part of it is you don't see her teeth, and it has the fewest broken things in it.
It has the fewest broken things, but there are still a ton of broken things.
Yeah, her acting looks terrible in it, but at least I don't visually look at it and like, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah. I see that shot in particular and I go, if this were a person, it would be the most fake and unbelievable acting job that I've seen. So it's not there.
She's not going to evoke an emotional response from her cry. It's very much that, like, it looks like she's fake crying kind of thing.
What else we got on the list? Lucas, what's up, man?
What's up, man? No, I've been listening to you guys, and you know, some of your points are just valid. I mean, what can you really add to that? I mean, I can just add my personal opinion, and just hearing you guys' thoughts and things like that. Comparing this juncture right now to the uncanny valley of puppeteering, say with the original Terminator, where the Arnold is in front of the mirror and he's essentially taking off his skin and revealing the damage on his eye. Like it just looks so off. If you're looking at a frame, that's perfect. It's fine. You can accept it for what it is. But once you start seeing it moving, you just see how much it lacks, how unnatural the movements are, how mechanical they are. I guess you can apply those same things, to what you're seeing and describing with all this AI. It's like it's way too smooth. There's no human element or, margin of error. There's nothing that your eye sort of picks up on and, makes you think that what you're looking at was shot, in camera, like in front of you. The shots, again, are just super composed and fluid. Like the camera moves, looks fluid. The lighting looks, intricate. The details are there, but it's still missing, the human element. That's where I feel we are, and that's what we're looking at. I don't think people should worry about these virtual performers, but in a few years, yeah, like how everyone was saying, we'll start seeing it more and more. Sort of like the whole Blade Runner thing. And, maybe some new language needs to be written up for, the legalities of it, where they just make sure that they cover every single angle to protect their investment. And that's where I'll leave it at.
Yeah, so it's mirroring what Eric and everyone else has said. I think this is more to generate talk. And let's get the name of the company out there, Article 6. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw that they have done commercial work.
Well, they maybe have.
So this might just get them more of that work. I don't think Tilly is really going to go anywhere unless it's commercial or social influencer or something like that. But I think she could serve as a catalyst into something bigger. I think this has probably opened the eyes of a lot of people, including studios, where they're realizing that they could do something like this. Now, this is possible. And even if they don't want to license Tilly, who's to say that they, one day won't wake up and say, we could spend a few $1,000s and just generate our own lists of actors and actresses that we can pop into a movie here and there, like some background characters that they don't have to hire, like some human-like assets that they can use for certain scenes, right? So I think it's opened doors, at least in the minds of some people. It's provided some possibilities probably for the worst, right? Like no one really wants these AI characters in their movies, but the possibility is there.
The biggest concern is more of the higher ups and execs looking at this and being like, yes, we can use this to cut costs, and try to force it on all the under people and be like, yeah, use that. And you're like, it's not going to work. It's like, but I saw it and it worked great there. And you're like, it's not going to work.
Well, like it could work as, just some background out of focus.
Oh, elements. Yeah.
Yeah. As elements, like some bodies like floating out in space or whatever.
Fun thing there have been several commercials that have had production problems because of their AI use. Like Particle 6, I was taking a look. So what they are is they do commercials, but they're all AI generated commercials.
Mm-hmm.
But what has happened from several commercial VFX houses is they've had to pick up the work. Like the client hired an AI VFX company and they're like, cool, we got this. We want to do this to the footage. And then effectively the VFX companies looked at it and they gave them a quote. And the quote was basically the exact same quote as if they had to do it from scratch, because that's what they have to do. They're like, we have to rebuild this. All right, cool. It's like, you want to have that thing there. Like, oh man, you have like a car there. It's like, all right, you want to have the car do this, this, and this, or something like that. It's like, cool. We have to physically build that car in 3D. We have to light it. We have to render it. We have to get the HDR's eyes for it. And they basically charged the clients the same as if they had to do it from the start. So they ended up having to pay for both of the AI original costs that they were hoping to do cheaper, and then the full price of VFX on top. Because the companies that did it didn't realize that you can't just make quick iterative changes. They're like, oh yeah, we just want to change one small part. And it's like, cool, we have to generate that fully in 3D to do that. It's not cheap. You aren't saving any time or money that way. Yeah, it's great because there's been there's been a lot of examples in commercial where it's cost the production company more trying to do AI, because to do any minor fixes on it, you have to basically create it from scratch anyways, because you can't iterate on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no source files. You aren't going to be like, oh yeah, can we get the work files for for this shot? It's like, it's AI. There aren't any work files. It's like, cool. That means we have to generate all of it ourselves.
Yeah. I keep wondering until the day that actually starts to happen, because I imagine for it to properly do what it needs to do, it's going to have to generate so it can create a solve, so you can actually have a real camera with a real asset in scene. And then when that day finally comes, you're going to have VFX houses that just fix AI, and that's all they're going to do. They're just going to fix elements in the shot. But until that day happens, when he first said that the VFX company had to give him a quote, I thought they were going to send him back a picture of the middle finger or something. Like, here's a quote.
I mean, that's effectively what it was in the end. It's like, cool, can you do this change for us? It's like, cool, yeah, we have to create the digital double for this. We then have to rig, animate, light, render it. And it's like, well, but all we want is this one change to the face. And you're like, yeah, that's the only way we can do that. We have to make a full 3D replica of it. We can't just prompt it to go away. Now, a lot of the problems are definitely from people who see the AI hype and they're like, well, AI works great. I've seen it work great. And then when they actually try it in production, it's like, it does not work great. It works terribly.
You know what? I've thought of something pretty interesting, is that Do you know the character, is it Hatsune Miku?
Oh, yep.
I know there are a lot of differences between this character and Tilly, because Hatsune was created as a mascot for like an audio software, and everything about the character is created by humans. That's modeled and animated and mocap, and the music is written by people. But she's a digital character, and she does have live concerts where the tickets always sell out. So she is extremely popular worldwide, I think. I don't really listen to her, but I know her music is very popular. And so this digital character is a celebrity. What are your guys' thoughts about, potentially Tilly or some other AI character also becoming a celebrity?
That's what they should have done if they were smart, right? They would have built a whole campaign around this character where you see her pop up in different things, build notoriety, and then you say, oh, now let's give them a movie, right? That's what you call having a plan, son. And like long-term goals and projections, which is not what they have for this. It's almost like they think that people are just going to hop on this tomorrow and they can get a project out within the year.
Mike, you're totally right. This is totally 100% short-term corporate greed, like that executive level of, no, we can do this. People will buy it. Mm-hmm. It's that.
Speak your mind, Kyle. What closing thoughts do you have on this topic?
Oh, man, I don't really have anything insightful. I feel like most of us are kind of on the same page. I'll just speak for myself. I despise generative AI to the core of my soul. I've never once used it. I've never once tested it out. I hate it. Hate, hate, hate. And again, we don't live in a country or an economy that subsidizes these types of technological advances. So again, it's really just a big to all the people like us who work in this industry. So my thoughts and feelings are very and explicitly negative. And yeah, that's all I got.
I was expecting that we would have to bleep half the words. What are your thoughts?
I feel like leaving that F-bomb, I feel like it meant something. I felt that. I feel like it speaks to the heart of America at this moment. Hate, hate, hate.
I mean, listen, I'm very lucky right now. I'm employed for the next couple of months at Studio Fresco Animation. I'm working on a lovely animated short doing compositing work. I love that I'm able to do that, but I hate that this industry has become something where like we have to rely on 2 to 3 month contracts and like that. I love this work. I love this work. I hate that I can't get more than 2 to 3 months of it at a time. So
I got a question for you and everyone. So let's say that, whatever studio you're working at or will be working at, let's say they all incorporate AI tools into the pipeline.
They have.
Something like comfyui, as Eric said. But now everyone is forced to use this tool, at least in some capacity, either, just for concept or whatever. You hate it so much, Kyle. Are you going to deal with it and learn to use it or, find something else to do?
Well, I'll be dead honest with you, son. 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago, I would have been obstinate. I would tell you, I will never do this, blah, blah, blah. But right now, I really just want to survive. I hate the state of this industry for the last 3, 4, 5 years, however long it's been. I don't like AI. Up to this point, I've never used it. Generative AI, I mean. But yes, I would be begrudgingly willing to take on a job that employed AI as long as it meant that, like, I have food and water. Like, that's kind of the point I'm at. I hate it. I understand it's kind of the way that technology develops. And I also understand we live in this bizarre economy where, like, people are just left out. If your industry gets too advanced beyond you, you're done. Goodbye. We don't care. So I guess my final answer is I really don't know. I don't want to. I really, really don't want to engage with generative AI in any way for 1,000 different reasons that I won't bore you people with. But if I had to, if it comes down to that, or like working at McDonald's again, yeah, I'm probably going to go with the AI job versus the McDonald's job. So probably not a great answer, but that's where I'm at.
No, I appreciate the honesty. What about you guys? Like, if you had to use AI tools?
I already use AI.
Well, yeah, but
the most AI I use is typically the Cattery software, so it's almost all just paint outs or depth map generation or normal map generation. It's to create tech passes, but
well, how much of it is generative AI though?
Well, it requires because it's effectively trained on the idea. It's like, oh man, you could effectively render out CG.
Yeah.
And be like, cool, look at this. This is what a depth map for it looks like. It's really great for that kind of thing where you could train on something. And I think that'll be something that you might see with, I don't know if he'll ever make it to something like in comp for some like edge work, like clean up on plates or something like that for, oh man, I've removed this green screen. Now I have to work on all these annoying edges to clean up. It's like, I'm not sure if it will ever be that good, just because even if you were to constantly train on, this is a green screen, this is a perfect final cleanup of that green screen, that you would need billions of it, I feel like, to get as kind of close as you need to get it kind of tech approved. But one thing I'd love to see for Action VFX needs to use their VFX library and make a generative AI model off that. Oh my God. There are so many times where it's like, oh, I need a 3/4 angle of some smoke, slow, wispy smoke. And you're just going through thousands of different smoke files. You're like, oh, I just cannot find one from the right camera angle.
That's a good idea, man.
Or something like, oh man, something where you have like a plate and you're like, oh, I need lingering fog on this plate, but it needs to interact with the trees or plate a little bit. That'd be a great thing. It's like, cool. It gives you a fog element that uses the plate to kind of distort the fog. Because I've seen some pretty good simulation stuff done with AI where it's like, yeah, no, that's pretty impressive water simulation. It does really good with fluid dynamic stuff. Not perfect. I don't think it's going to replace like hero VFX stuff where you're like, oh man, here's a giant explosion in frame and you need to see all the granularity of that explosion. Like for something where you're like an element library for comp, I think that would be an amazing use of generative AI.
And for textures as well.
Yeah, like you want a texture that you want to make tileable or something like that. That's where I'd use AI. It's like, it's annoying to try to make tileable textures. If AI could do that, that would be amazing. No one likes making tileable textures. And at that point, it's not really taking a person's job either. I mean, technically, it requires less workers overall because you could do stuff quicker, and that sucks. But unfortunately, that is kind of just a technology thing. But it's not like there's someone whose entire job is, I make tileable textures, and that's my job. It's not replacing that person. It's effectively just speeding up a process. Like, again, the great uses for AI I see in the future will be to speed up tedious processes. And that's kind of what they want to market it for. But with the generative AI, that's not what they're doing. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. It just doesn't work well for that.
Man, I'm just imagining there's some poor guy in India right now who just heard that. Eric says it doesn't matter if you can tile textures. And he's like, but that's all I do. All day, every day.
That's all I do. I specialized in only making tileable textures. Nothing else. That was my one niche.
The teardrop, just a single tear. How dare you spit on my land?
Oh, man. First of all, hilarious. Second of all, now you made me miss India.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I forgot you did go up there.
I just want to let the FX people know it's not going to take their hero sims. Their hero sims are always going to look better in the AI.
Mm-hmm.
No. I don't want it for that. I just want it so I don't have to use the darn element library that no studio ever organized.
True.
Oh, yeah, no. Go to the smoke folder. Oh, the smoke folder includes either the smoke folder, it could be underwater.
Oh,
paper.
Oh, man.
Oh, look, sometimes it's on a certain show. So you have to go into your old shows to find a smoke from that show.
Yeah, just want to thank everybody for coming on, talking about this AI stuff, business, nonsense, however you define it. As you can tell, we have our thoughts and opinions on the matter, and we'll probably continue to cycle back and give new updates and insights as things develop in the industry. And and other things impacting the industry, we'll try to do our best to start to cover, give some insight on that. And Thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, do all the things. Follow us on socials, Sodi_VFX. Until next time, everybody, thanks for listening and peace.